America, land of the free and home of the brave. But nowadays, you have to be brave just to speak your mind. Welcome to PC America. Now, what does it mean to be PC, and how does it affect you and your constitutional rights as an American? To answer this, we must establish what it means to be an American. The true essence of being an American lies within the First Amendment of the Constitution, more specifically, your right to freedom of speech. The right to free speech is so important because through verbal and nonverbal expression, ideas are spread, cultures fuse, but more importantly, it is the catalyst for change. One such example would be an outraged student seeking change in their campus. For this not so hypothetical example, let me introduce you to Mrs. Mary Beth Tinker, a free speech advocate. In the following clip, not only does she defend the right to free speech, but also the role it should play in an educational setting.
But what I always say to administrators, because I speak often with administrators, I always encourage the administrators to have students have a say in your schools. And not just over little things like what color to decorate with at homecoming, but real decisions that have to do with curriculum and what goes on in your schools. Because when students have a voice, it's better for everyone.
This next clip details Etan Thomas, a former NBA player, speaking about another aspect of free speech when he elaborates and discusses how athletes use their freedom of speech by choosing not to go visit the White House. Thompson explains how not going to visit the White House is the athlete's right, and that the athletes should not be condemned or looked at differently because of their choice.
Etan Thomas, if you were Steph Curry, would you go to the White House to see the president as the new NBA champs?
Ooh, that's a good question. I probably wouldn't. That no matter which team won the championship, that their decision was that they would not attend the White House. But I have to say, I also have no problems with Tom Brady not going to the White House during the Obama administration, because I believe that's their right. You know what I mean? I don't think we're in a democracy. You're not going to be forced to do something of that nature, and you have the ability to be able to express your opinions, whatever that is, even if it's an opinion that I agree with or disagree with. And that's what America is supposed to be all about.
However, their choice should not be mistaken for freedom of consequences. As mentioned before, freedom of speech does not innately mean one is free from the consequences of those actions. Those that claim the opposite incorrectly and shamefully use the First Amendment as a shield, reducing it to an excuse. The classic example of this is yelling fire in a movie theater. Of course, anyone can say that, and does not indeed have the liberty to, but the consequences are still there.
Finally, it's time to address the opposition, those that believe that free speech and an uncensored society are detrimental to people. As Arthur Milk points out, there are two major arguments for this censorship.
As I promised, I want to talk about some of the arguments that advocates for the restriction of speech make. I think that there are two. The first is that they claim that offensive speech brings unquestionable harms, physical harms. What are these? Well, it leads to depression, drug abuse, self-hatred, high blood pressure, you name it. Every imaginable ill or pathology can be blamed on external causes. And as I mentioned before, even concealed statements, let alone overt words, to discriminate or bring dishonor to a group can bring about these harms.
The one we'll be focusing on is that uncensored speech causes innate harm to people, whether it be physical or mental. However, when a society is immersed in PC culture, it inhibits the transmission of ideas and makes people as a whole more sensitive. It isn't that we're becoming more aware, it's that we've come to a point where free speech is being suppressed. To close things off, here's an interview with a local expert on speech and interpersonal communication, Professor Delissa Perez of Northeast Lakeview College. Professor Perez has been teaching speech at the collegiate level for 8 years now and has become an expert in the field.
I feel that free speech is particularly important in the academic environment because students should feel comfortable expressing what is on their minds without this fear of being criticized. Students, they come to gain a new knowledge, and part of that is achieved through people freely expressing their ideas. Now, we don't always agree with others, and that's okay. We have to learn to embrace other people's ways of thinking. Political correctness is taken to the extreme where people are now more apprehensive about saying the wrong thing and offending people, which really does limit their freedom of speech. I wish it were as simple as that, that popular saying, in a world where you can be anything, be kind, but unfortunately it's not. So we do have to think before we speak and take other people's feelings into consideration.
To be an American is to be open in expression as the First Amendment mandates. With all the changes in the world today, and America as a whole becoming more and more PC, now is the time to use our freedom of speech for the purpose it was intended, for the spreading of ideas, the fusing of cultures, and to be a catalyst of change. Thank you.